Thursday, my Gritty Vikings. We have some stuff to talk about today, and let's get to it. First of all, we have general announcements that we need to get through. First of all, as you've already heard, we are out until May 5th at this point. So what do we do? What are we going to do? That's probably going to be changing in the next few weeks, so make sure you are keeping in touch. Either BCSD social media, text, here, dojo, all that kind of stuff. And again, I apologize for the turning the camera the other way. I film my camera horizontally for these, and dojo needs to be vertical. Live and learn. So, wait and see on that. Number 2, if you did not pick up your work packet, and yes, I'm talking to you, Evelyn, Alayla, Aubrey, Isaiah, and April. Go to school between 10 and 1 most days. You can knock on the office door. There are people there. That's the lunchtime. Go get your packet and get your lunch. There's stuff there. So go get it, work on it. It's something, and something's better than nothing. Oh, and Jaslyn too. 3, announcements. Next week, we are going to have virtual dress-up days. So send me your pictures. Monday is sports day because we should have been looking at the opening days of baseball, and I'm really disappointed. But, you know, we got to be safe. Tuesday, superhero day. Wednesday, Disney day. Thursday, pajama day. I'm sure some of you are already in your pajamas all day anyway. And Friday, of course, wear your Voorhees gear. So those are the 3 big announcements for today so far. All right, so that we did. So let's take a look at the packet review. So I pulled apart the first couple days a little bit closer just to see what we're doing and all the rest. First part was this whole section on the Julius Caesar narrative. Now, included in my Google Classroom is information about who Caesar was and why he was such a polarizing figure in ancient Rome. I know we haven't talked about Rome yet, but the video I sent, plus the pieces in here, basically they're telling you to write a narrative. Well, remember, a narrative is a story. So what map should you use for a story? A flow map. So you really need to break your story into sections and think about a beginning, a middle, and an end. Sorry, I hit something. And you want to pull stuff in. Julius Caesar isn't going to get into a car. He's not going to get on the phone. He's not going to have cameras or anything like that. It's 27 AD. No, BC. BC. It's BC time. It's March 15th BC time. So you've got to go through there, read it, watch the video, plan it out, write it. Considering that everything got stretched, if you notice in Google Classroom, there is no due dates on things. I guess I can go back through there and put all the due dates for May 5th and see what happens with that. Oh, and I'm really sorry I did not put the Percy Jackson prompt. I got so distracted yesterday with everything that happened right as I finished the video. So let's look at the math. Erase this. I got a better eraser today. Ratio tables. We did some of that yesterday, but we can look at another one. A recipe for apple pie calls for 6 cups of sliced apples. How many cups of sliced apples are needed to make 4 apple pies? Well, they've already given you most of the information. If 1 pie needs 6 apples, how many are 4 going to need? Well, just keep counting by 6s. That's it. And there's a whole page of that. There's also voting for 2, variation 1 and 2. John and Will ran for 6th grade class president. There were 36 students voting. John got 2 votes for every 1 vote Will got. How many votes did each get? Well, you've got 36 total. John gets 2. Will gets 1. So start thinking about this. This is like yesterday's one. I want you to think it out, draw it out. Your number cannot be bigger than 36. So don't think, oh, I'm going to multiply, I'm going to do this. That 36 is going to be broken into some sort of smaller pieces. I want you to think about what are they going to look like. Speaking of which, let's take a look at that budget question. It said 75% of a budget was it $1,200? I think it was. Sorry, everything's right up here. 1,200. All right, let me put that up. And they want to know what's the full budget. Well, what's our magic number with percents? 100. We got 75%. So I'm going to look at 1, 2, 3, 4. I know this much is 1,200. Well, I'm going to divide 1,200 by 3 because that's going to tell me how much go in each one. And that's going to give me what? 400. Which means what's going to go there? Another 400. So what's the total budget? $1,600. And that's how you solve it. And that's why I said, I didn't worry about tape measures and number lines and I drew pictures because that is one of the mathematical practices. Make sense of the work. And that to me makes sense. And you can picture it and all that kind of stuff. So there's that. All right. So it's time for this. Now, I previewed the chapter today. It's a lot longer than yesterday's chapter. So let's see how far we get. I don't like to make my videos very long or they take like almost all afternoon to try to upload. But go ahead and grab your book, settle in, and let's read chapter 2. I played dodgeball with cannibals. My day started normal, or as normal as it ever gets at Meriwether College Prep. See, this is a progressive school in downtown Manhattan, which means we sit on beanbag chairs instead of at desks, and we don't get grades, and the teachers wear jeans and rock concert t-shirts to work. That's all cool with me. I mean, I'm ADHD and dyslexic like most half-bloods, so I'd never done that great in regular schools even before they kicked me out. The only bad thing about Meriwether was that the teachers always looked on the bright side of things, and kids weren't always, well, bright. Take my first class today, English. The whole middle school had read this book called The Lord of the Flies, where all these kids get marooned on an island and go psycho. It's a really good book. So for our final exam, our teacher sent us into the break yard to spend an hour with no adult supervision to see what would happen. What happened was a massive wedgie contest between 7th and 8th graders, 2 pebble fights, and a full tackle basketball game. The school bully, Matt Sloan, led most of these activities. Sloan wasn't big or strong, but he acted like he was. He had eyes like a pit bull and shaggy black hair, and he always dressed in expensive but sloppy clothes, like he wanted everyone to see how little he cared about his family's money. One of his front teeth was chipped from the time he'd taken his daddy's Porsche out for a joyride and run into a "Please slow down for children" sign. Anyway, Sloan was giving everybody wedgies until he made the mistake of trying it on my friend Tyson. Tyson was the only homeless kid at Meriwether College Prep. As near as my mom and I could figure, he'd been abandoned by his parents when he was very young, probably because he's so different. He was 6'3" and built like the abominable snowman, but he cried a lot and was scared of just about everything, including his own reflection. His face was kind of misshapen and brutal looking. I couldn't tell you what color his eyes were because I could never make myself look higher than his crooked teeth. His voice was deep, but he talked funny, like a much younger kid. I guess it because he had never gone to school before coming to Meriwether. He wore tattered jeans, grimy size 20 sneakers, and a plaid flannel shirt with holes in it. He smelled like a New York City alleyway because that's where he lived, in a cardboard refrigerator box off 72nd Street. Meriwether Prep had adopted him as a community service project, so all the students could feel good about themselves. Unfortunately, most of them couldn't stand Tyson. Once they discovered he was a big softy, despite his massive strength and his scary looks, they made themselves feel good by picking on him. I was pretty much his only friend, which meant he was my only friend. My mom complained to the school a million times that they weren't doing enough to help him. She'd called social services, but nothing ever seemed to happen. The social workers claimed Tyson didn't exist. They swore up and down they visited the alley we described and couldn't find him, though how you would miss a giant kid living in a refrigerator box, I don't know. Anyway, Matt Sloan snuck up behind him and tried to give him a wedgie, and Tyson panicked. He swatted Sloan away a little too hard. Sloan flew 15 feet and got tangled in the little kid's tire swing. "You freak!" Sloan yelled. "Why don't you go back to your cardboard box?" Tyson started sobbing. He sat down on the jungle gym so hard he bent the bar and buried his head in his hands. "Take it back, Sloan," I shouted. Sloan just sneered at me. "Why do you even bother, Jackson? You might have friends if you aren't always sticking up for that freak." I balled my fist. I hope I wasn't as red as it felt. He's not a freak. He's just... I tried to think of the right thing to say, but Sloan wasn't listening. He and his big ugly friends were too busy laughing. I wondered if it was my imagination or if Sloan had more goons hanging around him than usual. I was used to seeing him with 2 or 3, but today he had like half a dozen or more, and I was pretty sure I'd never seen them before. "Just wait till PE, Jackson," Sloan called. "You are so dead." When first period ended, our English teacher, Mr. DeMilo, came outside to inspect the carnage. He pronounced that we all understood the Lord of the Flies perfectly. We all passed this course, and we should never, never grow up to be violent people. Matt Sloan nodded earnestly, then gave me a chip-toothed grin. I had to promise to buy Tyson an extra peanut butter sandwich at lunch to get him to stop sobbing. I am a freak?" he asked me. "No," I promised, gritting my teeth. "Matt Sloan is the freak." Tyson sniffled. "You are a good friend. Miss you next year if I can't." His voice trembled. I realized he didn't know if he'd be invited back next year for the community service project. I wondered if the headmaster had even bothered talking to him. "Don't worry, big guy," I managed. "Everything's going to be fine." Tyson gave me such a grateful look, I felt like a big liar. How could I promise a kid like him that anything would be fine? Our next exam was science. Mrs. Tesla told us that we had to mix chemicals until we succeeded in making something explode. Tyson was my lab partner. His hands were too big for the tiny vials that we were supposed to use. He accidentally knocked a tray of chemicals off the counter and made an orange mushroom cloud in the trash can. After Mrs. Tesla evacuated the lab, she called the hazardous waste removal squad. She praised Tyson and me for being natural chemists. We were the first ones who'd ever aced her exam in under 30 seconds. I was glad the morning went fast because it kept me from thinking too much about my problems. I couldn't stand the idea that something might be wrong at camp. Even worse, I couldn't shake the memory of my bad dream. I had a terrible feeling that Grover was in danger. In social studies, we were drawing latitude and longitude maps. I opened my notebook and stared at the photo inside. My friend Annabeth on vacation in Washington, D.C. She was wearing jeans and a denim jacket over her orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirt. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a bandana. She was standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial with her arms crossed, looking extremely pleased with herself, like she'd personally designed the place. See, Annabeth wants to be an architect when she grows up, and so she's always visiting famous monuments and stuff. She's weird that way. She'd email me pictures after spring break, and every once in a while I'd look in just to remind myself that she was real and Camp Half-Blood hadn't just been my imagination. I wished Annabeth were here. She'd know what to make of my dream. I never admitted to her, but she was smarter than me, even if she was annoying sometimes. I was about to close my notebook when Matt Sloan reached over and ripped the photo out of the rings. "Hey!" I protested. Sloan checked out the picture and his eyes got wide. "No way, Jackson. Who's that?" "She's not your..." "Give it back." My ears felt hot. Sloan handed the photo to his ugly buddies, who snickered and started ripping it up to make spit wads. They were new kids who must have been visiting because they were all wearing these stupid "Hi, my name is" tags from the admissions office. They must have had a weird sense of humor too, because they'd filled with strange names like Marrow Sucker, Skull Eater, and Joe Bob. No human being had names like that. "These guys are moving here next year," Sloan bragged, like he was supposed to scare me. "I bet they can pay the tuition too, unlike your retard friend." He's not retarded. I had to try really, really hard not to punch Sloan in the face. "You're such a loser, Jackson. Good thing I'm going to put you out of your misery next period." His huge buddies chewed up my photo. I wanted to pulverize them, but I was under strict orders from Chiron never to take my anger out on regular mortals, no matter how obnoxious they were. I had to save my fighting for monsters. Still, part of me thought, oh, if Sloan only knew who I really was. The bell rang. As Tyson and I were leaving class, a girl's voice whispered, "Percy!" I looked around the locker area, but nobody was paying me any attention, like any girl at Merriweather would ever be caught calling my name. Before I had time to consider whether or not I'd been imagining things, a crowd of kids rushed for the gym, carrying Tyson and me along with them. It was time for PE. Our coach had promised us a free-for-all dodgeball game, and Matt Sloan had promised to kill me. I think we're going to stop there for today. It's not that far in. It's enough to get us a taste. Tyson, Matt Sloan, Percy, Merriweather Prep. I will put a question in Google Classroom and we will answer it and talk about it later. Oh, so before I go, one of the things I want to talk about is Zoom. I am going to start, I think we'll try a test run tomorrow around 10 o'clock. I will send a link through Dojo and Google Classroom for you to come into Zoom at 10. We'll do it from 10 to 11, and let's see who wants to join. If you're using your phone, you have to go download the app. It's just Zoom. And we'll go from there and see what happens. It's a way for us to kind of have a discussion face-to-face. We just had a staff meeting. Remember, you can see everything behind and you can hear everything. So let's be prudent about that, okay? Because it was really loud and really annoying, and yeah, I'm trying to not have a headache from it. So anyways, hope you're well. We will get through these next 5 weeks. So let's see what we can do, all right? Stay gritty. You are loved. You are respected. Peace out.